She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help.
Whoopi Goldberg ruled The View like a queen on her throne, cutting off guests, steamrolling opposing opinions, and delivering her takes as if they were the absolute truth. But in a single jaw-dropping moment, her iron grip on daytime television cracked wide open. And it was all thanks to Karoline Leavitt. No one saw it coming. The episode began like any other. Smug chuckles, exaggerated eye rolls, and the panel nodding in sync, perfectly aligned with the show's left-leaning script. Then came the remark,
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
But let's be clear, this wasn't her first job. It was just her first press briefing. She had worked in the previous administration. Whoopi, as confident as ever, leaned back, fully expecting to control yet another discussion. Then, the conversation turned to wokeness, a term The View practically worships. It's the core of their ideology, the hill they'll defend at any cost because, let's be honest, their entire show depends on it. Whoopi, radiating confidence, went in for the attack, her signature smirk creeping across her face. She pointed straight at Karoline and declared,
Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
And just like that, bam, the entire energy in the room shifted. The audience stiffened, the tension thick in the air. Even Joy Behar, who's made a career out of mocking conservatives, squirmed in her seat. Then came the shutdown.
Ma'am, we're going to stop this interview if you're going to keep attacking my colleagues. Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues.
But Karoline didn't flinch.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay,
now, as
I'm
for
sorry,
this
guys.
debate,
We're going to come back out to the panel. Karoline, thank you very much for your time. You are welcome to come back at any point.
And then, just like that, the interview was cut short. Sorry, guys, we're moving back to the panel. Karoline, thank you for your time. That was brutal. And what did Whoopi say next? Exactly what you'd expect. Predictable, frustrating, and completely uninspired. After all these years, you'd think she'd come up with something new, but nope. Instead, she doubled down. Later, Karoline issued a statement making it crystal clear. Her on-air snub proved exactly what many had suspected, that certain candidates won't be treated fairly in the upcoming debate. And what was the media's response? The same tired playbook.
In a statement afterwards, this young lady claimed her, quote, on-air snub proves that you know who will not be treated fairly in the upcoming debate. Is this more the same of, everybody's against me, it's all rigged, I tell you. Is everything rigged?
She's like, if the election is lost, it was rigged. If there's a debate, then the moderators are probably biased and they're prejudiced against me.
The tension in the room was electric. Everyone braced for impact. But Whoopi, she had no idea what was coming her way. This wasn't just a minor disagreement or a heated debate. No, this was Whoopi Goldberg outright dismissing Karoline Leavitt's entire career, her intelligence, her work ethic, her entire body of work. She brushed it all off as nothing more than a product of the very ideology Karoline actively stood against. It wasn't just a jab. It was meant to demean, to belittle, to make her feel small. And yet, the audience clapped. Some even laughed, almost like they were programmed to react that way. But there was something different this time, a lingering discomfort, a tension that hinted, deep down, they knew Whoopi had crossed the line. But no one dared to admit it. But Karoline? She didn't flinch. She didn't panic or scramble for a clever retort. She didn't rush to defend herself or plead her case. No, she did something far more powerful. She smiled. A slow, knowing smile that practically screamed, "Oh, you just made a huge mistake." But it wasn't arrogant. It wasn't cocky. It was the expression of someone who knew she had the receipts, the facts, the evidence, and the unshakable composure to flip the entire moment on its head. And that's exactly what she did. The audience had never seen anything like this before. Then, with calculated precision, Karoline unleashed a barrage of cold, hard facts. There was no way to brush this off with a sarcastic remark or a dismissive wave. She exposed where taxpayer money was really going. Government spending reports detailing absurdly woke programs, gender studies in Guatemala, Sesame Street adaptations designed to export American social activism to the world. And that was just the beginning. Each revelation raised more questions than answers, and the audience felt it. She connected the dots with laser-sharp accuracy, showing how wokeness had evolved from a social movement into a political weapon, one designed to silence, control, and punish anyone who dared to challenge it. And Whoopi, she wasn't laughing anymore. Karoline wasn't done. She slammed the Biden administration, calling one of his speeches the most divisive and disgusting of any president in her lifetime. She made it clear, this was a leader who declared war on half the country just for believing in America first. It's not radical to put your own country first, she argued. It's not extreme to want secure borders, a strong military, and an economy that works for our people, not foreign interests. And yet, the women of The View mocked her instead of supporting another woman? Strange, isn't it? Almost like their entire agenda depends on tearing down anyone who doesn't fall in line. Let's see what happens next, because something tells me Karoline isn't done dropping truth bombs just yet. We've watched cultural Marxism creep into every corner of our society, Karoline declared. It's in our public schools, our universities, Hollywood, big tech, even the corrupt mainstream media. She didn't hold back. She had seen it firsthand while working in President Trump's White House, and she knew exactly what was happening. Her generation was being indoctrinated. They were being conditioned to hate their own country, to turn against each other based on race, gender, and identity politics. And all of it pushed under the false banner of progress. For the first time, Whoopi Goldberg, the woman who built her career by shutting down conservative voices and dodging tough conversations, was on the defensive. The smirk that usually sat so comfortably on her face? Gone. Her hands fidgeted, as if searching for something, anything, to grip onto. She was used to guests stumbling over their words, desperately trying to keep up with her rapid-fire comebacks. But this time, the tables had completely turned. No matter how badly she wanted to clap back, to regain control of the discussion, she couldn't. Karoline wasn't giving her a chance. For the first time in years, it was painfully obvious. Whoopi Goldberg had backed herself into a corner, and there was no easy way out. She opened her mouth, then shut it, opened it again. Still, nothing. The audience, usually so quick to jump to her defense, sat frozen in awkward silence. Even The View's most devoted fans weren't sure how to react. The energy in the room had completely shifted. Should they clap? Should they laugh? Or should they just wait for Whoopi to say something, anything, to claw her way out of this? Even the camera crew hesitated. Should they zoom in on Whoopi's stunned expression, capturing the exact moment she realized she had trapped herself? Or should they cut to commercial and pray that viewers wouldn't notice the mess unfolding before them? Whoopi, usually so quick with a dismissive wave or a snide remark, sat frozen. She knew. She had walked straight into a trap, and this time, there was no escape. And that's when Karoline's real question landed like a bomb in the middle of the studio. If wokeness is really about diversity and inclusion, then why are conservative women the ones being attacked? Why is it that the people who preach tolerance turn vicious when confronted with someone who refuses to fall in line? The silence dragged on, and everyone felt it. Whoopi had no comeback. No sharp retort, no quick-witted remark to deflect the moment. For the first time, she had nothing. Desperate to regain control, she searched for a lifeline. But it was too late. The damage had already been done. Joy Behar, sensing the disaster unfolding, scrambled to save the moment, forcing out a nervous joke in a desperate attempt to break the unbearable tension. But it was too late. The damage had already been done. Whoopi Goldberg had just done something even she had never done before. She had completely unraveled on live television. Her response? A jumbled mess of words rambling without direction. Well, listen, if you don't have anything to say, you blab, you just go on and that's what you hear. It was painful to watch. The woman who had spent years dominating discussions with her sharp comebacks and condescending tone suddenly had nothing left. Her argument sounded childish, flimsy, as if she was just spewing words to fill the silence. And that's the real question here. How has someone this incapable of handling pushback held onto such a powerful platform for so long? It's frustrating to see someone who lacks substance still holding onto their seat, as if daytime TV depends on them. Maybe that's it. Maybe Whoopi has been so deeply ingrained in daytime television culture that she's untouchable. But at this point, you'd think The View would have replaced her with someone who can actually bring a real discussion to the table, because let's be honest, Whoopi doesn't talk to people. She talks at them. That's exactly what she was doing here, and it backfired. Hard. And here's the kicker, everyone sees it now. The internet exploded within minutes. Memes, reaction clips, endless commentary. Whoopi's stunned expression was instantly plastered all over social media, replayed on an endless loop. But here's where things get even more insane. This wasn't the first time Whoopi had landed herself in hot water by running her mouth. Over the years, The View has become a lawsuit factory, dragging ABC from one controversy to the next. From tone-deaf comments about the Holocaust to bizarre defenses of highly questionable figures, Whoopi has been at the center of some of the show's biggest scandals. But nothing hit ABC harder than the recent wave of defamation lawsuits. First it was Carrie Underwood, then Elon Musk, and now Karoline Leavitt. One lawsuit after another, stacking up, each making it harder and harder for ABC to ignore the consequences of Whoopi's unchecked commentary. And the worst part? This time, Whoopi had no one to throw under the bus. Let's talk about Carrie Underwood. When Carrie performed at Trump's second swearing-in ceremony, Whoopi and her co-hosts went all in, mercilessly tearing her apart. They didn't just criticize her performance, they went full-on savage. They mocked her, ridiculed her, and even suggested that she had ruined her career, implying that she had aligned herself with hate. It was a full-blown character assassination. And of course, they expected Carrie to just sit back and take it. But Carrie? Oh, she did something no one saw coming. Instead of issuing some half-hearted PR statement or a vague tweet, she filed a billion-dollar defamation lawsuit against The View. And when that case finally made it to court, something explosive surfaced. Something that not even Whoopi was ready for. Joy Behar stirring the pot. Again. Live on air, Joy Behar stirred the controversy even further when she made this remark. She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a, that's what it is. Really? So apparently you can't be attractive and smart? Even the co-hosts tried to give Joy the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she didn't actually see that briefing, one of them muttered. But let's be real. If Joy had seen Karoline's performance, she would have had a very different impression. Because Karoline, she held her own, breaking free from The View's scripted agenda. Watching someone confidently stand their ground, armed with facts instead of talking points, felt like a win. Especially when the usual voices, the ones so used to controlling the conversation, started to unravel. Karoline wasn't just some political newcomer. She had credentials. She went to St. Anselm College. She worked for WMUR in New Hampshire. She ran for Congress at just 25 years old. And she put on an incredibly strong campaign. Karoline's stats speak for themselves. It's refreshing to see her finally getting the recognition she deserves. On the flip side, Whoopi Goldberg's current accomplishments are getting harder and harder to define. Once upon a time, she had a strong start in acting, but now her contributions seem less about substance and more about stirring controversy. Her position on The View doesn't feel like it's based on value anymore. It's more about tenure. She's been there forever, so she stays. But if you actually stop and think, what has she done recently that's truly meaningful? It's tough to point to anything substantial. Meanwhile, Karoline Leavitt's record speaks for itself. She ran for Congress at just 25 years old, losing by only 8 or 9 points but still putting up a fierce campaign. She became press secretary for Trump's campaign, going on TV every single day while heavily pregnant and as a new mother. And then, she stepped up for her very first White House press briefing at 27 years old, the youngest press secretary in history, and she nailed it. Meanwhile, behind the scenes at ABC, then came the bombshell revelation. Leaked emails exposed that ABC had orchestrated the attack on Carrie Underwood. This wasn't some accidental oops moment. It was a deliberate, calculated smear campaign, all designed to create controversy, spark outrage, and keep The View trending. When the truth came out, the industry was shaken. ABC executives scrambled into full-blown damage control, eventually being forced to settle for a massive and undisclosed payout. But just when they thought the storm had passed, Elon Musk happened. For months, Whoopi and The View hosts relentlessly painted Musk as some kind of dangerous figure, spreading false claims about Twitter's policies under his ownership. But Musk, he wasn't going to let that slide. So what did he do? He sued, and just like that, The View was thrown back into crisis mode. The fallout begins. Advertisers, once loyal to the show, began pulling back, tired of the constant scandals. The reputation of The View, once seen as a ratings goldmine, was tarnishing fast. Big-name sponsors started questioning whether the controversy and lawsuits were worth the risk. As the legal battles piled up, the cracks in The View's foundation grew deeper and deeper. The once unstoppable daytime juggernaut, led by Whoopi Goldberg, was crumbling. Now, 3 lawsuits, advertisers jumping ship, and an entire network in full panic mode. The View was no longer the powerhouse it once was, and ABC was completely losing control of the spiral. And then came Whoopi's meltdown. "Oh yeah, I would like this young lady. This is her first job. I would like her to do a little homework," she snapped, because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. She said, "There will be no wokeness here." She wasn't done. Oh yeah? Well, let me explain something to you. Without that wokeness, you might not even have that job. Her voice rising, Whoopi launched into a full-blown rant about how women were not invited to the table, how they had to fight their way into spaces once dominated by men. Black people couldn't get into colleges. Women couldn't get into the schools they wanted. This isn't just about race. This is about all women. Women weren't invited to this party. It was a man's world. And we busted our backs to change that. But while Whoopi was talking in circles, Karoline stood firm, the real fighter in the room. Whoopi's speech was meant to be empowering, but it completely ignored the reality that Karoline was pointing out, the way wokeness had shifted from fighting for fairness to being used as a political weapon to silence, control, and punish those who dare to think differently. And in that moment, the final nail was hammered into Whoopi's career at The View. Whoopi Goldberg's reign ends, for good. After years of running the show, cutting off opposing voices, and steamrolling through uncomfortable topics, Whoopi Goldberg's time on The View came to an abrupt and unexpected end. ABC tried to spin it, calling it a break. But the truth? It was obvious. She had been let go. The network was in full-blown damage control mode. Advertisers were pulling their support at an alarming rate. Even longtime fans of the show started questioning its future. Now, The View faces a massive crossroads. Will they bring in another Whoopi-like figure to keep pushing the same narrative, or will they finally shift direction? Is this the beginning of the end for The View? What do you think? Let us know in the comments. And that's all we've got for today. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss out on the latest celebra juice.